Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Our time, champione, champione, oh, oh, lads, we have to win the World Cup. We won the World Cup, lads. Look at that, we've won it.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Oh,
Love it,
how are you,
guys.
lads?
Great. Absolutely great. I don't know what you boys are like, but I'm feeling good right now. World Cup's coming towards an end. Football season's coming back. Trophy in the cabinet. Great stuff.
Bring it on, bring it on. It gets better and better. Goy man on the pitch and everything. Gee, it gets better. Look, let us get into. First of all, I want to say a great show, lads, last night with Aloid. I loved it actually. Caught a bit of it today, and a brilliant show. And if you haven't seen that, watch it back. Some great. I love the way that Aloid said, "We're massive. We're massive in Saudi." Don't believe him, but we're massive in Saudi. And but then Aloid getting the phone calls along the way, interruptions from Murdad, and then playing FIFA with some of the players, and of course then the body language expert Aloid giving the indications that Maddison is coming, and that was the little thing that tipped Pete over the edge. Loved it. But how are you, Chris?
Yes. Good, mate. Yeah, all good. Yeah, like you say, really enjoyed last night's show with Aloid. Lovely to see him. I haven't seen him for ages, so it was nice to be on a show with him and Pete last night, and we learned more about Al Hilal. Me personally, I didn't realise they had so many good players, and I even found out before when I was looking at the lineups that Vieto was playing. And he at one point he was a big prospect. I think he was at Atletico Madrid, and there was another top Spanish club, might have been Villarreal, but he was being linked with real top clubs, and I think he's only 29. So yeah, seeing him in the lineup as well was interesting. But yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good, and looking forward to the show tonight.
Well, that's great, Chris, and it's great to be back. You were back last night. I'm back tonight. Richie will be along with us over the next couple of shows. We do have a mystery guest coming on, and they are actually in the green room. But before we bring our mystery guest out, maybe we'll set what the tone of the show tonight. We said we'll do a question and answer show. So he's fire the questions at us, and we'll try and answer them. We may miss some comments along the way because we'll try and focus on the questions. And you know us, we'll just try and filter out instead of filtering the questions and leaving to the end. We'll do them right through the show, and we've loads of topics to cover as well that popped up over the last 2 weeks that we might touch on too. But should we bring out our mystery guest first?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
Let's bring on. So, have you seen the film Twins, where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito is in it? Have you seen that film?
Okay, now.
Great film. Great film.
Oh, great film. Great film. I saw a long time ago. Well, this is our guest.
Hey! I'm back. Chris is mad. Pete's black. Daz is white. Who gives a fuck? We're all back together. What?
And that's him gone. It's already. We have to take him off the air.
You never know what he's going to say. What, Daz, he's going to have you for that.
I told you yesterday he needs to get rid of that button. Somebody needs to take it.
You gave me
What's happening, lads? Merry Christmas, first and foremost.
Very
Merry
Christmas,
getting
Christmas.
Martin.
towards that point. Yeah, I don't know what was happening. Somebody sent me a text and said, "Do you want to be on NUFC Matters?" And I said, "You know, it's been a while. I'll come on." And the button pops, and all of a sudden, I'm back on with you three lads. But cheers anyway. Thanks for having me. Nice to be back as a guest. Haven't been on in a while. Yeah, I mean, if you look at me and Chris, it is like before and after, isn't it? You can see he's had a hard life.
Chris, be prepared.
It's
Be
me, it's me,
prepared,
Avon,
man.
man.
He's missed it really.
The Avon
He's missed
man.
it. No, do you know, we're not going to mention Avon. Do you know what, lads? I have to say, Pete and Chris, I watched the show last night. Obviously, I was in the chat. Massive group of cool people in the chat. Loads of people throwing me comments, which was nice. Haven't been on in ages. Haven't really spoke to you in ages. Had a lot going on. For people who know, obviously, last kind of 16 months, I've lost both my parents. Really been struggling. Being in a pretty bad spot. Struggling with work, struggling with life, struggling with everything really, and trying to keep the pieces together. And to be fair to these lads and Richie, my good buddy who isn't on tonight, at the minute, have really kept me going. So yeah, the boys and myself had a bit of a chat, and they said come back and sit in tonight, and we're gonna have a bit of crack and see what happens. So here I am. And listen, also I must give a massive shout out to everybody from the day of my mum's passing right through the funeral and everything else. The amount of messages, phone calls, DMs are just absolutely unbelievable. I cannot thank people enough. People I bumped into in Newcastle when I was over there, people on Twitter, people on Facebook. I'm actually lost for words for once. So listen, absolutely amazing, and I'm delighted to be back and sat here with all you lads again, because you are my extended family. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Top man.
Great to have you back on with us as a guest, Martin. But look let's get into it. Look at you, and you know this show could go anywhere. But first, you mentioned NUFC Matters, but did any of you see the lads, Stewie Penn and Mitch and Steve Hasty, rubbing shoulders with the Newcastle top brass there yesterday, actually, along with Aloid in another venue. But it was great to see. And there's another little picture here I want to show you before we get into these questions. Who's that in the back there, in the middle at the back? I recognize that guy. Not behind Craig Hope.
There he is. There he
There he
is.
is.
You're not talking about Craig Hope, are you?
No, not talking about the other guy. The guy that looks like he's just starting school. That guy.
He really does, doesn't he? He looks like he's fresh out of year 11.
He's like the one that went there and everybody else is wearing Nikes and he's got Pumas.
Love it.
But great to see, and I'm sure we'll be catching up with Jordan pretty soon to hear all about it. So that's something to keep an eye out on loaded. But let's get to the questions. Anyone see a good question yet?
I've started a few already.
Started a few, great. Maybe this one.
What's that?
This one here, Pete, from Paul Williams. Good to see Miggy's staying in form, and Carius looked decent. Should be number 2. I would agree. I thought he did look quite well today in that game. If anyone saw it, was only available in the UK. But yeah, there's a few ways around that. But yeah, he put in he had some nice saves, and I think they're talking about extending his contract. Would you keep him on, lads?
I thought he played all right, mate. I must give a shout out. Hang on 2 seconds. Who was it sent me something? Oh.
There's been more shout outs on this show.
I know, mate. It's like an advertising set. What can I say? Somebody on Twitter, Sultan1, I think it is on Twitter, because I ping people and I say, can I get a link? Because same as Daz, outside the UK, couldn't get onto it, couldn't log on to NUFC TV, which, by the way, can I say is an absolute travesty, because how many fans outside the UK were not able to log on?
Yeah.
So Newcastle, if you do by chance, Jamie or Gadusi or any of them watch it, put it on for outside fans. What's the deal with just restricting it to the UK? I don't get that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But Sultan sent me a link straight from Saudi Arabia, which was top class. Obviously couldn't understand a word apart from when he said Miggy or Almiron or Wood or Newcastle, but the rest of it actually watched and got to see the whole game. I thought Carius played really well. Somebody said to me he'd been Eddie Howard. But I thought his saves and when he was called upon, I thought he was bang on tonight, mate. To be honest.
Cool. I went the alternative route, as I was saying to you, lads. I was able to change up a VPN and watch it then on my telly, so it was great. But Chris, your thoughts? Did you see much of the game?
I'll be honest, I was late leaving work, so I missed the first half. And then by the time I got home for the second half, I tried to get into the website. And obviously, as you all know, I'm in the UK. And for some reason, I logged in, but it wouldn't let me in. And then I noticed there was a message at the bottom of the website saying, make sure you log in early. So maybe it was overloaded. I don't know. So in the end, I thought, you know what? I watched the highlights back. So I've watched about 10 minutes worth of highlights. And to be fair, one of the things I was going to say when I came on was that Carius looked pretty solid. He made a couple of decent saves, commanded his box well.
Good saves.
And yeah, and do you know what? I think Paul Williams makes a great point. Like we've all got reservations over Darlow. I think we've all admitted that and said that, really as a number 2, we probably need an upgrade. And I think look, we all know what happened with Carius, especially during his time at Liverpool. He had a really, a really bad Champions League final. But that doesn't make you a bad keeper overnight. And I think, he needs to be given a chance based on what we've seen. So far so good. And let's be honest, lads, he's not going to be playing week in, week out. So for me, why not give him a new contract? If he continues to play in the vein of form that we've seen this evening, there's no reason why not. And as Paul said then as well, just to touch on that, Miggy, like I saw both goals. The first goal was a typical Miggy goal. Nicks possession, runs straight through the defence, nice finish, and then that second goal where he just strokes it home with his left foot and leaves the keeper not even moving. Fantastic. So yeah, totally agree, Paul. Fantastic that Miggy's staying in good form, seemingly.
I think the thing with Carius is, like, would you want any other manager to be bringing him back out of the shell and giving him some confidence in Eddie Howe?
Yeah, it's true.
Probably no better man to have him with.
Yeah. Pete, your thoughts on Carius?
Look, I think when he came in, people might have thought I was joking when I said that I see him as the number 2 already. And I think he proved that tonight. Yes, the opposition weren't the greatest, but I think, again, we made them look that way with the way that we played. We had the intensity of a team that hasn't had a break. We look like we literally just have come from the Chelsea game into that game, like seamlessly. It was really, really good to see. And actually, I was quite impressed with him. Held the ball really well, made some good saves, looked like he was commanding his area quite nicely. Great. For me, it's a no-brainer. I'd extend it until at least the end of the season, providing he's happy to stay. And we're looking at opening up places. I'd be looking at cashing in on Darlow. That's just my personal opinion. Whether it happens or not is a different conversation. But yeah, very, very pleased. I was glad that he started. I wanted him to start, so really pleased that he did.
I think it was telling that it was. Sorry, Daz. I thought it was telling to a degree that it was Carius and then Gillespie. So I think your point about Darlow, Pete, is probably quite valid. To be fair, in that if there was one to be moved on, say at January time, his chance to go down, I would imagine to be a very good championship keeper to a team that's down at that level. I couldn't see a Premier League team picking him up, maybe Forest or somebody, but they probably don't need him. But I think, he's a good keeper. But I think when you see a game like there was tonight, and you're seeing Carius start, and then you're seeing Gillespie come on, you're kind of going, if you're Darlow, you're kind of sitting there in a
There's a reason.
In the midst. Oh, is he injured? Is he?
No, there was a reason. Yeah, there was before the game, Darlow and Matt Target had some kind of illness, so that's why they weren't on the pitch.
Yeah, too many Jolly Tots in the
so that answers this question here from Alan. No Matty Target used tonight. Does everyone know why?
Yeah,
that's just answered the question. So
it came via Liam Kennedy. I saw that just before the game. But we have. Let's go to another question. Or if we don't have another question, I'll pop up. I have plenty of topics we can talk about as well.
Yeah, honestly, the questions have already been flowing through. We've got a few, but just firstly, Mr. Dorr.
Mr. Dorr.
Yeah.
Did you hear the news about Mr. Dorr?
And I tell you what, yeah, because Daz, I think you put it in our chat that he might have won something from, is it
Mr. Beast?
Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Tell us what it is that you might have won.
I can tell you. Because I watched Mr. Dora's video today on it, and his reaction video, and he's totally shocked. And I put a little comment from Loaded on it. But yeah, Mr. Dora won Mr. Beast diamond play button. So I think you get a diamond play button after you get 100 million subscribers or something absolutely crazy like that. And he picked Mr. Dora and gave it to Dora. So yeah, congratulations.
Top stuff. Quality. But no, thanks for joining us. Obviously, big support of the channel and away days earlier on in the season. We'll see you, I think, in February. When we return the favour at the City Ground. But lots of questions coming in. Just a nice one here, nice and easy one. For I don't know if you guys are watching off at NUFC TV, but it says commentator on NUFC TV was much better than usual crap and actually had some funny, interesting stuff to say. Daz, were you happy with that? Do you think?
Yeah, was it Mark Allison? Was it
yeah.
Run Geordie Run?
Hold on,
Right.
yeah, I have a story about that.
Go
So
on,
Mark Allison is actually one of my best mates, and we have been pals for many, many years back in Washington. And Mark, anybody that doesn't follow him on Twitter, Mark, as Daz said, there is also known as Run Geordie Run. So Mark has done multiple long distance runs. So one of the first ones he done was a run across the US from coast to coast. In 100 days, and then a few years after that he did coast to coast in Australia, and to be fair to him, I know for a fact when he trains all he eats is peanut M&Ms to kind of beef up and get ready. He's an absolutely sound lad, and he is over in Riyadh and was heading into the game, and NUFCT grabbed him and went, do you fancy commentating? And he was completely and absolutely shocked. So I follow him on Twitter. If you don't, give him a follow at Run Geordie Run. He's a top lad. Does loads for a couple of the hospices back in Newcastle. Does loads of charity, loads of fundraising. He's a top lad. But yeah, they literally nabbed him going in. He was given a press badge, everything else, and he was like, "What the fuck is going on?" So yeah, so Mark commentated for the second half for NUFC TV. And was absolutely chuffed with himself. He met Eddie and all the boys there. Sent me some pictures. I'll send them on. He met all the boys at the meet and greet there. So there's a couple of pictures, I think, on Newcastle's website. You'll literally just see his arm. You don't really see too much, but he's getting a few bits signed from Eddie and the lads. But yeah, he's one of my best pals. So there you go. That's a little story.
Cool. He was some great pieces of info on the initiation songs that some of the lads were singing. So yeah, that was kind of interesting as the game was ongoing. So yeah, he did a top job for someone that was just landed in the deep end.
Follows them everywhere, absolutely everywhere. When he did the run to the US, and he got across to, he started in Santa Monica or somewhere. And in 100 days, he ran from kind of California to the East Coast to Coney Island in 100 days, basically doing a marathon a day for 100 days to get across the US, which is just absolutely savage. And then the same in Australia. But when he got to Coney Island, he'd been kind of tweeting about, he's a Newcastle fan and everything else. I rang him a few times while he was running, did some stuff on sponsorship with him and different bits and pieces. He sent me a jersey that he had ran in across America, which I still have. And he got to kind of middle of the night in New York down towards Coney Island. When he got to the pier at Coney Island, there was like a shitload of Geordies from the Newcastle United fan club in New York who were at the finish line and jogged the last kind of 100 yards with him. So it was like, oh, so cool. So yeah, so he's a fairly inspirational kid. So yeah, give him a follow if you're not following him. Hook him up on Facebook or have a look on Twitter. He's mint.
That's class. Love it. I just want to throw this up just because it's popped up already. We talked about Carius already, but Goldbridge apparently said he was rubbish all night, not coming for crosses. His kicking was bad also. Why is Mark Goldbridge talking about Newcastle United?
Yeah.
He thinks he's a Saudi.
Strange. That's really strange, boys. I don't know what you think about that.
Stick with the sidemen, managing them, I think.
Yeah.
Very odd. Very odd.
It's not the first time he spoke about Newcastle. He's talking about us a lot at the moment.
He did a full show on it, Pete, the other night about the whole thing about PIF buying Man United and getting rid of Newcastle and everything else, and the odds. And funny how the old moralistic values have all of a sudden dropped from the green and yellow scarf brigade down at Old Trafford, isn't it?
Definitely.
Pete, before you go on, because I'll forget it later, just a reminder to people, if you've not subscribed, or if you're watching this back and it's the first time you're coming across Loaded, make sure you hit that subscribe button as we march towards 5K, our own little mini marathon that we've been running for a long time. But and make sure you hit that like button as well. We're about 170 something away from the 5K, so it'd be lovely to get it before Christmas.
Love to get it before Christmas.
Yeah, that'd be class.
Do the right thing.
The right thing.
Hit the button, subscribe. What does it cost? You can become a member if you want to for a couple of quid. But get on there and hit the likes and subscribe. It helps the boys here, lets them do more content. People are watching. I watched that show last night. If you're an outsider coming in, you love Newcastle and you've never watched a pub before, it was an amazing show last night. It was class, top chatters, people getting into it. Info was great. The info from Alwilly was unbelievable. One of the best shows, even though I wasn't on it. It was one of the best shows I think you lads have put out in a long while. Thought it was mint last night.
Yeah, it was a good show.
And make sure you subscribe to Aloid as well, actually.
You were good as well, Chris.
And
you're on time. Is
that when I was on
mute?
No,
you were good. You were on time, and someone made an appearance. Do you know what I mean?
She did.
It's good.
So, someone's broken, Martin.
I promised I'd be nice tonight.
I will say thank you to our new member,
welcome,
Mr. D. Egan. I'll just refer to you as D. Egan.
Dermot.
Try and pronounce your name.
Dermot.
Okay. I didn't want to be disrespectful and get it wrong, but
you should have just gone for it. That would have been funnier.
That's what I do.
Welcome to the Lonely family. Glad to have a new member joining the ranks. So and if you haven't subscribed, I'm sure you have already. Subscribe and lots more content.
It's a good old Irish name as well. Where's he from? Is he in Ireland?
Yeah, drop it.
Where are you from, Dermot? Let us know.
Drop it in the chat, definitely. Right, okay. Good question here. Well, it's not a question, it's a comment, I would say. Stevenson took his goal well. Enjoyed watching the tune again. Young Dylan Stevenson got his first goal, first team goal for Newcastle. So what did you boys make of that sort of cameo performance?
I'll jump in so first. Yeah, I thought he did really well, and I thought all the young lads that come on did really well. Stevenson took his goal. I thought it was Miggy was scoring that last one. I thought he got his hat trick, so that's a compliment to Stevenson for sure. Also want to give a shout out to Alex Murphy, who I was chatting to on Insta and said, if you get some minutes on the pitch, I'll have a pint for you.
Football friends.
You
know what though, Daz? He looked the real deal when he came on. I thought he got into that back four, and I thought he did not look out of place at all. Won a good couple of headers, settled well. I thought he looked the part. I thought he looked really, really good.
Yeah. As I was saying, I said to him, "You get a few minutes on the pitch, and I'll go have a pint for you in the tent in the Christmas market in Galway in Ayr Square." So now that's what I have to do. Damn it!
Football friends.
Let's just see Martin do that.
Football friends. Me and Alex going for a beer in Galway. Football friends.
Can we get him off, please?
Every time that conversation comes up.
That's it. Anytime he was getting in the chat last night as well.
Love it. Again, questions are coming through. Lots of them about transfers, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, next up, one for Daz. Welcome back, lads. Daz, any joy on the new tattoo? I think, seeing as Martin's here, I think it's worth bringing that conversation up.
I think we closed it down.
No, let's talk about it. I'm happy to talk. Well, hold on. Okay, so let's go back in history. Okay,
Jesus, there we go.
Slightly. So, obviously, a good while ago, we had a discussion about Joe Linton at the time when he wasn't doing so well. And obviously, then Kieran Clark did him a favour and got sent off, and Joe got moved to midfield, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
Then Joe Linton got better and better and better and better. And there was a little bit of chinwag and a little bit of joffing and everything else. And Daz said, and I
Yes.
quoted, if Joe Linton gets a Brazilian call-up,
No.
See, now you're going to change it.
No.
Richie pulled out the clip and you backed out of it, Dazzler. So hang on. You said...
Hang on. What I said was...
To the guest.
I have to. He won't let me speak otherwise. What I said was... that Joe Linton is on track for player of the year the way he's going. That's what I said. Then Martin added the other bit into it, put a bet on my behalf, and it started there. Carry on, Martin.
Everybody on Twitter and this program listened in and went, fair play to you, Daz, you're going to get a tattoo when he gets a call-up. Then when it got close the other week before the World Cup squads, Daz was rather panicky and went, no, hang on, lads, that's not what was said. He was, yeah. There was a little bit of that up in Galway, and he was like, "No, hang on, lads, that's not what was said." And I can well imagine that he was scratching around old loaded programs trying to find the clip so that he could back out of it. And then all of a sudden, our good friend Richie went, "I think here it is, Daz," and Daz was well and truly dropped in it. So yeah, he does still have to get a tattoo if Joe gets a call up.
No, way
on his arse.
Anyway,
and me and Alex, his new football friend, will turn up and make sure that he gets it in air square or which any kind of square he would prefer on his backside.
Moving on. All right.
He's still ducking it, Pete. What can I say?
What I've been saying recently, Mark, is that he needs to accept that at some point he's getting a tattoo. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I remember you saying that on the show. It's like it's happening. So
it's gonna happen. So you just.
I think it's a chance just to be a nice one on his chest now, just of him and Alex Murphy. Woo, friends.
All right.
Moving on. Come on, lads.
Brilliant stuff.
I'm only here for a short time, not a good time.
Right, there's a number of questions coming in. Well, firstly, Les, thank you very much. Martin, hopes he's back for good. Great to have him on tonight. And superb as always, and it started off with a bang, as everyone would have expected.
Hang on, Pete. Will we put the question to him? So, since I shouldn't be asking this now after what he's just put me through. But what do you think? Would you come back? Would you come back for good?
Would I come back? What to this? Watch your back.
Chris is
you got to see. You see, you're doing that. You got to do the Peter Kay thing, isn't it? When he thought take that, and he was saying, "I wash your back.
I wash your back."
Would I come back? Okay, so look, let's put everybody out of their misery. So obviously, I took a lot of time out. And I made a decision to move away from the channel for personal reasons, not because, to be fair to some people who text me, because I wasn't getting on, not because at some stage during early season, myself and Pete had a couple of words. We agreed to disagree at times. We're still brothers. We have opinions. The five of us, including Richie, we don't always see eye to eye. That's the nature. We're different personalities. We're different people. We all have views and opinions. That's what makes us different. And when we come together as five, that's what makes us special. But I took some time out. I had a really bad time when my mum passed. These guys know that. And I took some time out for my mental health, to spend time with my family, and to make me feel better than I was feeling. I'm still working on that. I'm not 100% where I want to be. But these guys helped me a lot of the way through that. But it took some time. I met with all of them. I said, I want to take time out. They were obviously unhappy, but it was the right thing for me.
I mean,
Yeah, we are brilliant at acting now.
Yeah.
Forgetting that.
Exactly.
The
But
joke
these guys looked after me and have kept me going. Richie turned up on the day of my man's funeral, and people have been great. As I said to you before, the amount of messages and everything else. So over the last few weeks, we've been chatting. I came away from everything: the channel, the chat, WhatsApp groups, everything, and I took time out. And then I chatted to Daz and I said, "Do you know what? Put me back in the chat group. You know, I'm missing you guys. I miss the banter. I miss the bit of camaraderie and just talking NUFC. These guys are my mates. I don't, that's what I love talking about." So we did that, and we've been chatting for a few days. I've had offside chats with all of them. I've spoken to Pete privately. I've spoken to Daz privately, Richie and Chris. This week we met as a 5, and we had a chat. We had a good talk, and yeah, I'm gonna come back. I missed the show. I missed the guys.
What's that?
Champions League is back. So yeah, you know what? To be fair, and it's
5.
great music, Daz, by the way. 5. We are going back to a 5. To be fair, and I've said this to the lads, and I'm sure each one of them will tell you, they had absolutely no obligation to bring me back. I walked away. I took my time. I spoke to all of them, and I said, I fully understand, if it's a non-runner. And to be fair to every single one of them, they went, "It's been shite without you. Nobody says fuck anymore. There's no beeper. Daz has had nobody to cut off. The ratings have gone down. The subs have stalled. What the fuck is going on? Come back." So, but look, genuinely, I've missed them. So I'm back. I'm going to come back. I haven't committed to loads. We're going to kick off where I'm probably going to turn up once a week. Guys are working it out. I'm going to fit in with their schedules. I'm not going to push things because I'm still working on things for me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a little bit. And if that progresses, great. But I'm entirely working with these guys as to what they want and where I fit. And if it works, it works. But yeah, we're going to give it a go. So there you go. And thank you, guys. Absolutely. Thank you.
And just remember, Martin, we can get rid of you just like that. So just remember that.
Yeah, stuff.
Back in.
I think our Double O Sato said it very nicely. Martin back with Daz, Pete, Chris, and Richie is like when Robbie Williams rejoined. Take that. Hope you're back for good, Martin. And you won. And
that's a bit of a double comment, though, isn't it? It's kind of like you came back when you were fat and you were really crap, and then you were off the boil for a while, and then now you're back doing a gig in Port Vale.
How can you turn that into a negative?
No, I know. No, it is good. Double O said, "Keith, hope you're doing well, mate. I've missed you." Yeah, no, it is good to be back. As I said, I have genuinely missed it, and I've missed these guys because they're my family. So. Yeah. Anyway, move on. That's enough. Matt McConaughey's got nothing on me.
Love it.
Right, crack on, boys. Enough about me. It's not about me. Let's move on.
We've got some.
Should put you on the big screen for that.
Really, yeah.
Shut up, Daz. You missed a trick.
Brilliant questions coming in. Tom's on fire tonight with a lot of really good questions. However, J-Lo Broski has put, "Hi guys, watching the rest of yesterday's pod. I have a question and don't know if it was answered yesterday. Does anyone know what the score was on Friday? Toon versus Borough Friendly? No, it seems to be said. I had no idea about this, so I
didn't even know we were playing.
I heard about it, and I heard about it from Lee from Newcastle Fans TV.
I thought you were going to say, my friend Alex texted me.
No. But I have no idea what the score was, and I don't think he did either. Well, I just saw it in one of his videos. As he's out in Saudi as well, along with Adam P, and they're producing great content. Go check that out on their trip. So I love watching those.
It's been like development squad or something, was it, lads?
No, I think it was the full team. It was like behind the doors, kind of friendly game, and he didn't even. No one even knows if it was at our training ground or Borough's training ground.
Wow,
interesting. Yeah, so learned something new there, J-Lo. Great to have your question in there. Just another one. Welcome back, Martin. Always great for you educating me about DH-gate. Love it. Brandon Blaze, how you doing? As you're shorter than I remember.
Right, Jimmy. Hope you're feeling better, Jimmy, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
Good man. Yeah, exactly. Get well soon, mate.
Difficult few days, but keep powering through, Jimmy. Light at the end of the tunnel, fella. Great to have you on as well. Right, look, I'm going to get into it now because there's lots of talk about transfer discussions, various other things. But first and foremost, where is it? There's one good question to start off. Just to, it's from Paul Williams. Early thoughts on what positions we should strengthen in January. I know there's been a conversation here and there over the last few weeks. He thinks defensive midfield and wing competition for me. Chris, I'll come to you first. Thinking about January ahead, friendly aside today, where do you think, if we're going to sign anybody, it is the position that we need to build on?
Pete, just before I answer this question, I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt proceedings, but Martin was talking before about us being a 5. Now we're back as a 5. So much so, the 5th member has actually dropped me a message. So he must be watching. So big shout out to Richie. Hope you're good, mate.
Richie.
Daz, I don't know if you're going to still be smiling after this. Richie has sent me a clip from a previous show.
Oh, I've got it as well.
I think I know what this clip is.
I've got it as well.
I was beavering away.
I don't have it.
Beavering away in the background.
I don't have it.
And I'm beavering away in the background, and I've just uploaded it. So just before we go to this, I just want to play this clip.
Yeah.
And see what it is.
Before you do, Chris, this is the first thing you ever uploaded. So, honestly,
let's roll. Let's get it rolling.
Let's get it on.
We don't know if it works yet, Daz. Let's just see if it works.
Yeah.
Right, are we ready? Are we ready?
And it's edited as well, remember?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
Joe Linton, he is reborn. I love him now, and playing in that kind of midfield role, and he picks the ball up, he wins it back, and he goes for a little run as well. Love him now, compared to the hate we had for him for a while. Absolutely love him.
I think we should set a challenge that if we stay up and Joe Linton carries on performing like this, Daz should get a Joe Linton 7 tattooed on his ass somewhere at the end of the season. So
maybe
hit
jersey
the like buttons
maybe.
if you want Daz to get a Joe Linton tattoo if we stay up, just hit the likes and subscribe.
He could get he could get player of the season yet. The way he's going.
That's definitely worth a tattoo, Daz.
Yeah.
Now, where do I agree, Anthony? There.
Doesn't he say yes at the end?
He does say
No,
yes
I
at the end. And that was before we even got to the whole bit about, oh no, hang on, no, it's got to be a Brazil call-up. No, he actually has to play. No, I need to see him in the centre circle in a Brazilian jersey. Daz moves more targets than a police van trying to track speed.
I don't know how we do this, but you guys may know. Daz may not want to do this, but I think we need to put this up as a vote.
Let's hashtag Toon Pauls. Let's get him involved.
Yeah, well, we can do one. We can do one on the show now. We can do one live, call.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, should Daz get a
you can
tattoo?
Do you know how to do it?
Well, how to tattoo? I don't know how to tattoo, but I'm sure with a couple of beers I could keep a steady hand, Daz. I'll do it for you.
I can put up the poll.
Well, okay. We can put the question out there, and we can just see from the responses in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way. If Daz doesn't want to do the poll, let's create our own in the chat.
So based on the clip, should
Daz say yes at the end of the chat? At the end of that clip, and should he get the tat?
I'm just on to Amnesty International. My human rights are being violated here. I'm live and loaded. Who do I contact?
I tell you what, you want to make sure it's a good tattooist if you're getting it on your ass, because you might be violated elsewhere, pal.
Well, we could always check around Newcastle for good tattooists, and maybe we could just get it done in April.
Get it done live in April.
Hey?
Oh, that would be amazing. Hey, imagine that. We go to the game. Daz has had a tattoo beforehand. He won't even be able to sit his ass down when we're watching the match.
Turned into a roasting of me.
Sorry, Daz.
Sorry,
An
Bez.
absolute winner. And I tell you what, the chat is live. It is live. So Dave said,
Tattoo. Oh, nice.
Course chipper is the
Come on,
top of that
Chips.
one for sure.
100%. Oh, it's all coming in. Yeses.
There we
Hit the
go.
Anyone
thumbs
that
up,
says
hit the
yes,
like button.
anyone that says yes, I'm unfollowing them on Twitter.
Yeah.
There
If
you go.
you want Daz to get the tattoo, hit the like button. There's an easy win.
Great
Hit the
stuff,
likes.
man. Great stuff.
Based
man.
on likes.
Yeah. Sorry, Pete.
Right,
Go on.
we
Ask me
move
the
on?
question again.
Yeah,
Oh.
go on, mate.
Oh, support for Daz.
Oh,
Who's that now?
Ooh.
Love you.
But now it's back.
Oh, yeah, it's back. Yeah, 100%.
100%.
What, Jamie, lad?
Dave Shepherd.
Mark
I stood
Cooper.
up for you. Dave.
Bottoms up.
Thumbs up.
Hey!
Hey, get in there, Mark.
Oh,
Bottoms
God.
up.
New
I like
member.
Remember spoken.
Jeremy, you're never winning a prize.
Love it. Look at this.
Cheek, nice one.
Oh,
Does that work well, Daz?
Right,
Oh, that's a
let's
good
move on.
question from
Thanks,
Jules.
Richie.
brilliant stuff.
Right,
Richie throwing bombs
Sorry,
all
go on,
over.
Pete. Sorry, mate. What was the question
No,
again?
no,
Remind me.
no. It was more than a pleasure to have that discussion. I think it's clear as day now. But Paul Williams puts a great question out there. I'll come to you first, Chris.
Yes.
Early thoughts on what positions we should strengthen in January. You know, he thinks defensive midfield and maybe wing competition. Would you agree with that? Is there anywhere else you think potentially we could improve the squad going into the second half of the season? I'll just throw it out there for you. Chris Wood gets injured today.
Well, do you know what I was gonna mention, because it was Daz who said it a while ago actually about Chris Wood and potentially him leaving in January, which I don't think is impossible. I mean, obviously if he's been injured, that might be an impossibility. But for me, I do think that I'd like to see a young striker come in. Somebody of the Hugo Ekitike likeness, or a Grand Qual, if you like, someone who's for the future, but who won't mind being understudy to Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak. So I'd like to improve. I'd like to improve the squad as a whole. So I'd say a striker. Not necessarily we need one in January, but a striker. But I think, to be fair, I think Paul Williams is spot on there. A defensive midfielder to free up Bruno to go forward to play as the number 8. So a defensive midfielder is absolutely right. And the wing competition, we've all seen how absolutely fantastic Miggy's been. But as we know, if Miggy's out, it's possibly Ryan Fraser. If St. Maximin's out, it's possibly Jacob Murphy. Like I'd like to see upgrades on those two positions, if I'm honest, or even just a winger who could play either side. Pete, I know during the World Cup, you've probably had your eyes on Cody Gakpo, who's been outstanding. I'm sure there's plenty. Mudrik's been mentioned. There's plenty of players out there, but I think Paul Williams is spot on there. I think defensive midfield and the wing. Obviously, we've been linked again recently with Harrison Ashby, who's the young right back at West Ham. And I've mentioned a few times that, we've got Kraft, we've got Manquillo, but going forward, do we want to bring in these younger players who are going to be ready in 2 or 3 years? And then when the likes of Kieran Trippier is perhaps moved on, goes into a coaching role, you've got a player there who's been working under hopefully Eddie Howe, for 2 or 3 years and will be first team ready when Kieran Trippier is ready to move on. So they'd be the 4 positions, I'd say: striker, winger, defensive midfielder, right back for me.
Okay, Mark, would you agree with Chris? Is there anywhere else you think? Or
yeah, I think Chris isn't too far off, mate. To be honest, I think the only thing for me is you're looking at January, you're kind of going, Jamie Rubin said, I think while they're out in Saudi this week, January window is always tricky. We know that. We all sat here and did the window last January. You're kind of looking to see what's going on. Nobody really wants to move and sell. But Jamie Rubin made a very interesting comment, which was, if it's the right player, we will spend. I still have a sneaky
Do you think
suspicion.
Do you think the World Cup plays a part as well, Mart? The fact we've had this break, do you think that'll play a part with the January window?
I think it opens up the window a bit more in players that you might see. I think there's always posturing, and I think you look at the Europeans or whatever else. I think you've during that time you've got agents posturing. Your man, Cody Gakpo is exactly that. Like he's tweeting away today about man, you haven't come in yet, but let's see do they. So for me, the World Cup or a European Championship or whatever else, it's always a bit of posturing between players and agents, and it's this, that, and the other. So to be fair, Chris, I don't really pay much attention to what comes across Twitter or whatever else is. I think if you look at Newcastle, we've gone from being a club that has struggled to get anybody because it's always been out in the press and leaked beforehand, to getting players. Okay, you get a wind of a Botman and whatever else. Big deals have we done, but we've brought in a lot of youth. We've, and I think that for me, I think is more so where the club will focus. The Australian lad is a prime example. Kind of under the radar, playing really well, exciting talent. Alex Murphy's another one. So I think there's probably, if the right player is there, I think we'll go. Will Maddison be available? Are the boys from the Toon doing the right thing in the World Cup and chatting to him? I'd say absolutely they are. Would Maddison come? I'd say he will. How much is he going to be worth, though? How much are we going to have to pay? 60, 65, 70 million? Would he be worth it? Absolutely. He'd be a massive addition to what we've got. Some people in the chat are putting about Diaby. Do we go back in? I don't know. For me, I think Eddie Howe at the minute, one of the things I think he will be looking at or is looking at, I would think, is probably a left back.
Yes.
I think that's where he's got issues, because I think he needs to find, and this is just my opinion, I think he needs to find the right player like a Trippier that can sit at that left back, that when Maxi does his thing, doesn't fucking leave us wide open. Because teams, the first half of the season, have played to that strength. And I know he's moved Dan Burn out that way, and we played with kind of Dan Burn as a left centre back in the left back position. And to be fair, he's done a good job, but he doesn't really have that pace. And I think what we've seen sometimes is Premier League teams have played to that piece, and they've played ball on that left-hand side, which you would. So if I was Eddie Howe, I think our midfield isn't that bad. Would you love a Maddison? Absolutely. Isaac and Wilson, I think we're okay. Yes, I'd like an upgrade on Wood, but I think Anderson's there. I think we've got things we could do. We've got Miggy. We could move stuff around in midfield. So I'm not overly worried about that. But I think for me, I would love to see a really good, solid left back come in.
I've just sent you boys in the chat a link. I saw it about 1 a.m, and I was like, I need to send this on to the boys, and work got in the way, and I've not had a chance to. But Sanjay did a fantastic thread yesterday afternoon, it must have been, on where he thinks it is an important position, and he mentions left back, and he actually narrows it down to 5 left backs that he thinks Newcastle United would benefit from. Really, really good thread. So if you haven't checked that out, anyone in the chat, check out Sanjay's thread on left backs. And I think you're right. William Smith mentions about the left back Borna Souza, who starred in the World Cup for Croatia. But also plays in the Bundesliga as well.
He's a great little player.
For Stuttgart, and he's a brilliant attack-minded player. Not the best defensively, but he's a really good attack-minded player, and he could be used in transition for certain games to really kind of give us open
up that left-hand side, because we're kind of one-dimensional at times.
Yeah,
we can't get through that midfield. We go right. We don't really. I think we tend to go left less because we know we've got that bit of weakness at the back.
We're so attack heavy on the right hand side that it almost it's like we've talked about before. It's almost like an extra centre back with Burn sitting there, and we need to think bigger and better. I'll go back to the Renan Lodi conversation, in that actually we were looking at him because he was an attack-minded, left-sided fullback that liked to get forward. So it's clear that that's what Eddie Howe was looking for. In the end, I think we've played it safe and got Target, who had a great back end of the season. But I think it's also been proven that now he's got his move. I don't think he's played as well personally, and I don't think he deserves to be in the team.
The games he did play, Pete, he was poor. He was poor with his positioning. He was poor with his distribution, and when he got up the pitch, he didn't play like he did when we had him on loan. Put it that way.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting one that you brought up, Martin. Daz, any particular players, any particular positions that you think that we need to strengthen as a priority? It might only just be one.
Yeah, I don't think we'll go for a left back in January. I think we will in summer. I just looking at this list, Pete. I see Owen Winjal, the Dutch lad, is in that list. I brought him into my FIFA team, and I also see someone who Jimmy was talking about on your show yesterday. The guy from USA, Anthony Robinson, is on that list as well. But I don't think they're looking to strengthen left back. I think they will do a backup on the right back, backup for Trippier, and Harrison Ashby will come in as we alluded to in the show with Sean, and we talked about on deadline day. And he kind of will be back up to Trippier and learn there. I think I agree with what Chris said at the start. That is the position. The striker / winger, Young, will happy to just kind of get some minutes, but be playing second fiddle to our main strikers, and can kind of play in one or two positions that would get some game time. And I think then a defensive midfielder would be a position I'd like to see, and that to allow Bruno to move up a bit. What a player there, I don't know. I'm kind of taking a step back on names for the time being. I just kind of letting it, because it'll change a million times, and we'll have how many names we're going to be talking about in January. Loads.
Sure, and Dika's back in the mix as well. I seen that Pete today. Evan and Dika, we've been thinking too. But an interesting, forget who it was. There was one of the comments there saying, if we want to play two really good attacking fullbacks, we need another good, a really strong DM to go in there to defend those, that back two, which is a really good comment.
I think that's one further up. I'll try and find that one. But yeah, no, I think it's right. I think that's absolutely right. We would need that defensive midfield. But Sanjay puts that in his kind of his thread. He talks about the positional play of certain players, how because we play Burn deeper, it allows us to have that midfield, that defensive midfielder playing higher up the pitch. But ultimately, you'd want more of a solid defensive midfielder to sit there, so we can have a more attacking fullback to push forward, because the DM then becomes that one that sits in and breaks things up. So we're almost playing a little bit lopsided now, just to match the team, but match the quality of player. But equally, I actually give praise to Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe's figured that out based on the players that he's got, and he's making it work.
You can only do the best with what you have available.
Exactly.
In a weird kind of way, Peter, it kind of gives us to a degree, it gives us a bit of a pivot, but further down the pitch, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
In the way that he can move that three around, and then he can push the two backs up to a degree. It's kind of like normally you would have a team where that pivot is kind of between the front and the middle three, or the middle three in the back. We kind of have that a little bit deeper in some of the games, which is, again, as you said, I think he's kind of figured that out, that we don't necessarily need to make those changes through the top end, but he can pivot between the defensive end and the midfield end to make that movement more fluid.
Yeah, I agree. I think if anyone could make this team work and transition this team, it's Eddie Howe. And that's the beauty of it. And I think you made a really good point, Mark, with regards to signings just in general. We won't necessarily sign a player that we desperately need.
No.
But if there's a player out there that the deal's right, even if we've got more than one player in that position, we'll go and get it. We'll just go and strengthen, and we'll do what we need to do. So that's going to be really, really interesting to watch. So many questions coming through. It is brilliant. But first of all, I just want to put on here that Richie's in agreement with us. Dad's actually saying yeah as the clip is ending. So he's
Richie. Richie is not credible. in this
He does say
situation.
he loves you really, but definitely.
Blocked.
Interesting one here. Just going back to goalkeepers, just very quickly, we can go on touch this one very lightly. Leon's put, do we sign Laris and sell Dubravka regardless of what Man U end up doing with their options? Well, the way he performed last night, I think he conceded 4, didn't he, for Man United?
Yeah, 4-2, yes, yeah.
I think we be moving him on.
Go on, Daz.
I think we just keep Laris for the just for the next 6 months. Maybe he deserves to be. Yeah. See how he gets on, and maybe he could if he would doesn't mind being a third keeper, because I think we need to bring in a young keeper now as well, and be preparing for when Popey for the future, really, I guess.
Yeah,
I think it's hard for
Get rid of
Dubravka to come back.
Yeah.
My opinion is I think it's hard for Dubravka to come back with the comments he made.
Yeah.
I don't think he did himself any justice on a loan deal by doing what he did. I think he burnt his bridges, me personally.
Calling them United. He must know that. He must know that straight away. And then he's like, come on, lads. And he's signed for them for like 3 hours.
Even if that's not him, Chris, and that's a media team, it's
poor
dick comment to put up. Yeah, it is poor.
Yeah, it's poor.
I think it will be hard to come back to the dressing room, I think, let alone Newcastle fans. Listen, you don't mind a player going off on loan, they're doing well, they're getting game time, they come back and they've improved, but to go and do that and sit in front of a TV and put "Come on United," jog on.
Definitely.
Not for me.
A good question here. John asks a couple of questions, both linked. Will the slight injury Wilson supposedly got for England be a bit more serious than they're suggesting? And linking to that, do we still need a backup for Wilson? And actually, this is going to be a 4-part question, because there were 1 or 2 in the chat that mentioned about. I don't know if I actually stole them. Yes. Another one from John. Do you have any idea where Isak will play in longer term? Not sure if he's a striker. And Bobby links to that and says, sneaky feeling we're going to play Isak in the inside left forward. So if that is the case, do we need a replacement or a backup to Callum Wilson? And with that slight injury that he supposedly had, is it worse than we think? So January could be changed and tipped on its head slightly. What do you think? Mark, we'll start with you.
I can't see them going in for another striker at the minute. I think they've got Isak, they've got Wilson. We've chatted numerous times on this show on Callum Wilson, and we've commented about the recession of the recurrent injuries that he gets. I've made comments about him being made of glass. When Callum Wilson is not injured, he is firing at 100%. He is the most naturally gifted goal scorer in a lot of Premier League strikers, for me.
Yeah.
And he will score you goals. If you get supply to Wilson, he will score you goals without an absolute doubt. However, it is hugely concerning the amount of slight niggles, tweaks, groin strains, thigh strains, muscle strains that he gets from very limited playing. I mean, he's picked this up in England training, or maybe 15, 20 minutes out on the pitch. You're kind of looking at it going, like, I'm 52, I'm fat, I eat kebabs and drink beer. I could understand me getting a tweak or wrecking me groin because I'm fat and useless. But this guy is a pro footballer who trains regular, who's got a great diet, has a whole team around him, and you're kind of going, how are you injured again? What have you done this time? So I think it is a massive concern, but I don't think the club will go in. I think the comment about Isak, I think they will play him on the left coming in, because if you watched him a few times for Real Sociedad, that was where he played. He did float. He played inside left coming in. And I think that's a more natural position for him than an out-and-out striker. So I don't think we'll play him as an out-and-out. But I don't see the club going in to get a replacement. I think Daz makes a really good point, which is I could see them bringing in a younger striker from a lower league or from overseas and bedding them in to maybe be a longer-term replacement, and maybe Isak being the longer-term replacement for Wilson. I don't see anything happening this January, but it's a huge worry, because if we don't have Wilson's goals and Isaac doesn't get the thigh strain sorted out, because, again, slightly concerned that he hasn't really trained with the full squad. He's been doing his own thing, and obviously Eddie's piece about not rushing him back and giving him time and everything else. Listen, great man management if that's the case. But if Wilson goes out, we get into the second half of this restart of the Premier League. Okay, Miggy's firing, but where else do the goals come from? It's a bit worrying.
So Martin's right. It is a worry. Go on, Daz. Is the old delay kicking in? I think it could well be.
The delay is kicking in.
What I was going to say, that I was going to come on to you anyway, Daz. Martin's made a really good point about the concerns there, and he's mentioned, Isaac's not back in training yet. Wilson with a slight injury. Will that force us into making a signing up front?
Well, Pete, whatever happens, Alexa,
and the
what have we
votes
got?
from the Euro and the votes from
We've got Bruno in the middle. He knows exactly what we need. Botman at the back, Isaac in attack. Newcastle's gonna win the Premier League.
Yes,
That's
like
enough
that.
for me.
I like that.
Thanks, Alexa.
Great answer. Chris, come on to you. What do you think?
I love that. I love it. Absolutely love it, Das. I mean, I've said for a while now, haven't I? And I'm sure you lads know this, Martin. I don't know whether you know it, but for me, if you're spending £63 million on a striker, you can't play him on the wing. Like I see him as an out-and-out striker. Now, not last season, but the season before, Isaac did really well at Sociedad, and then last season he started playing on the wing, I believe, because Serloff became the main striker, and I just don't know. I just think if you're paying that much amount of money for the striker, I just think you've got to play him in his natural position. Not to say he can't play on the wing, and maybe Eddie will change his mind. Maybe Eddie's already highlighted him as a winger. I don't know. But for me, I think I think you've got to play him through the middle, and that's why I mentioned on the previous question about having like an understudy striker, because unfortunately, as fantastic as Callum Wilson is, like you said, Mart, you can't trust him. And you can't trust him to stay fit. And if you're missing a Callum Wilson, it's a huge hole in the team. As much as we love Chris Ward and his effort and his endeavour, he's not Callum Wilson, and he never will be. Unfortunately, they're not the same kind of striker. And I think when I noticed it, particularly when I was at the Liverpool game at Anfield, and we lost 2-1, as everyone will remember. As soon as Isaac came off the pitch and Chris Wood came on, it was backs to the wall, and because we missed that press from the front. And I think if we had a similar player to Callum Wilson, maybe not the same standards in terms of, we could be bringing in a young 19, 20, 21-year-olds, but someone who's going to press those lines, somebody who's going to, defend from the front. I feel like that's what we need. William Smith came in. Yeah, fantastic question from William. And do you know what? I'll throw that over to Pete now. Do we go back in for João Pedro from Watford?
That's a good point.
No.
Great point.
New deal, though. Do you not get a new deal?
He signed a new
in the
deal.
summer, he signed a new 3-year deal or something, didn't he?
Is the clause there, though? Is the clause?
Well, maybe. Nobody really knows that. So there could potentially be a clause there. Now, would he come to Newcastle? Of course he would. He was ready to. I think he would have his bags packed in the summer, thinking he was going to be a Newcastle player. But I personally don't think we go in for João Pedro again. I think that was like it's been many a time. It's either kind of a now or never type situation with João Pedro, because the way we've moved and progressed. If we were sitting mid-table in the Premier League, I think João Pedro's a genuine signing for us. But because we're sitting at the top, we're going to need that player that's going to come in at the top. And I think if we do get a striker, it'll be someone on loan in January. I don't think we'll go out and spend a lot of money. But equally, I do believe, and I love the guy so much. I think Wilson's a fantastic player. But I do believe this will be his last season as a regular footballer for Newcastle United. I don't see him starting as
I agree. I think there's a piece of it, Pete. I think his legs are. I just think his legs are on the way out, and not in a. And when I say that, I'm not by way means of pace.
No.
But I just think he's still got that pace there. But I think every time, like when you see him and you see him stretch for a ball or reach, I'm kind of going, oh Jesus! It's just he doesn't. I don't know what it is. Obviously last season when we still had Bruce and Rafa beforehand, and we had the medical team, we did. You lads know I used to scream blue murder about the medical team, going, we don't train effectively, we don't bloody stretch and warm up. Medical team's poor, we don't do anything. Can't really blame any of that now. So you're kind of looking at Wilson, you're going, what's going on with your legs, mate?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Look, he's picked up a slight injury.
Go ahead there.
Sorry, Pete. I'm going to get in there on João Pedro, because we came up in the show with Paul, with Sean. I'm on for giving João Pedro a shot here at Newcastle. I thought the one game I spent a bit of time kind of looking at him, scouting at him, and he is decent, and I think Eddie Howe could really get something out of him. I know there's so many options out there for us now, but if we could get him at a decent price, and again it would boil down to if there's some kind of a clause in his contract, but I'd give him a shot. So if William is on for bringing him, I'm on for bringing him in as well.
I think Pete's more to the wire, Daz. To be honest, I think it's more likely a loan deal. If anything, there's a bit of cover for the second half of the season.
But look, I wouldn't be. I said no really quickly, and the reason why I said no is because in my mind, and I might be wrong here, and the clause might be a huge factor. In my mind, I'm thinking, hold on. In the summer, we were going to pay 25 million with 5 million added on, so it was going to be a 30 million
deal.
And there was a lot of people at the time that hadn't seen a lot of him play, apart from our Watford lads who we had on a couple of shows.
They loved him.
They were buzzing about him, but everyone else was thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. Now you add 3 years additional onto that deal, and you're thinking, well, they're not going to sell him for the same price, so it's likely to be more expensive. And you think to yourself, if you're going to pay 30 million or plus 30 million for a striker, wouldn't you rather go out and get someone that we were linked with in the summer in Goalkeeper Ramos, at Benfica, who's just scored a hat trick for Portugal? Like, I'm not saying we're going to sign him, Ramos, but it's an example. Like, if we're going to go and spend 30, building to 40 million, do we not do what we did with Isaac and go, you know what, if we're going to get someone, let's get someone that we know is ready made and ready to come into the Premier League and tear things up, especially if we're saying that next season Callum Wilson won't be the starter going into the season. If you've got Goalkeeper Ramos leading the line, just as an example, and you've got Wilson that can come off the bench, or Wilson, for example, that might start in Europe in those early rounds, and then you bring down Goalkeeper Ramos into the Premier League games, or vice versa. You've got two strikers there that, you know, you're buzzing about. Wilson gets his rest here and there, but you can bring him in off the bench, impact. And I'm just looking at that, and I'm just thinking it sounds more viable than just splashing out crazy money on a guy that hasn't really played a lot of Premier League football, and even in the Championship this season hasn't massively pulled up trees where you think that 30 million is justifiable. I don't know. That's just me kind of throwing it out there.
Just as a curveball, Pete, and again, we're surmising here, but just as a curveball, do you think there's any possibility that maybe, you know, we had the deal on the table, and then obviously, you know, we decided to go in for Isaac and pulled out from João Pedro, but do you think that maybe a new deal has been signed with João Pedro where if they don't get promoted, that perhaps there's a knockdown fee, perhaps it's 20 million, perhaps it's 15 million, and it's all based on them getting promoted?
Yeah, because Watford won't be able to afford to keep him, and that's a year without Premier League football and Premier League money. So they're going to have to make their money back somewhere. So even if they then go and sell him for 15, 20 million, they're basically covering their wages or covering themselves for another season in the Championship. It might mean that they can hold on to one or two players that they might have had to have sold Watford by staying in the Championship. So I think that's more than a reasonable shout. We've seen lots of teams do it in the past. So no, I agree. I think it's more than doable. But let's face it, that's at the end of the season. Would you really be wanting João Pedro in the summer, next summer, especially if we get Champions League or European football? Or would you be looking at, right, if Wilson is going to be back up next season, are you looking for either Isak to be the main man and getting a top quality winger to come in and really turn things up, or vice versa? If Isak does turn to the wing, do you want to go out and get a Goncalo Ramos or another top level striker? Rafael Leao at Portugal as well, who's tearing it up at AC Milan. Like, would you want to go and get someone like him? Like, I think most people would probably look beyond João Pedro at that stage. But no, I think Daz, Chris, I think you're both absolutely spot on to want to consider him. And to be fair, he's a talented young boy. But I just think the money and the finances that could potentially make that deal happen, I think if the club are doing what they say they're doing, they'll probably look at that and think, probably not worth it now. At this stage, there's probably better deals out there. But again, it's another one to discuss. I think it could all change in January and in the summer. And look, we're going to cover it all because we're back with the fully loaded transfer shows. They'll be back in business.
Pete, I'm looking forward to getting the Watford lads back on again for a third time as we try to slide down Pedro.
They are more than happy to come on and talk about João Pedro in Watford. So, and look, they are great crack as well. They're such great lads. Talk to them boys all day long. That is for sure. But just to add on to that, great point from William and Chris pointed that one out. We're not the only ones. As Rat says, Spurs struggle in Europe with Kane and Son. Newcastle would have to level up their front line with talented, pacey players. If we're going to be playing European football, fingers crossed Champions League football, we are going to have to upgrade because what we've got isn't enough to go on a Champions League campaign. And look, let's face it, if the PIF and our ownership get Champions League football, they're not just going to want to embarrass themselves and just limp past and fail at the group stages. They're going to want to really go and actually let the world know that
they'll accelerate the plans.
Of course.
Yeah. And I think that's been said. I mean, certainly from what I read the last couple of days, I think the team and Eddie and the guys went to Al Rumian's house and had dinner and whatever it was, I think on Tuesday night. And, Eddie kind of had said, it's not the time to ask about transfers. But when Al Rumian spoke about the vision, he went, we are extremely ambitious. Third is great, but we want more.
We want more.
So I think when you get that conversation, when you're going to play a mid-season friendly with Al Hilal and you've got the chairman of PIF having you around his house going, third's great, but you can do better. You're kind of looking at it going, yes, game on. So I think, you get any format of European football. Listen, I would say when they took over with the mess that we were left, they probably went 2-3 seasons. But I think the job that again, we've all spoken about that Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall, his team, had done, I'd say that's 2 years in advance. So I think, if Pete, you're quite rightly going, we get Champions League football. Listen, if we'd have gone into this season as we would have done the start, sitting on the show going, we get top 7 in the European spot, we'd have snapped your hand off. So now that we're sitting going, possibly we might get European football, might be a Champions League. There's no way that ownership does not spend January, summer, whatever at the end of in particular the summer, once we know where we're going to be. If we're in a European spot, I think they double up on the investment. That's that, and I think they go for it. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
it's not like they haven't got the funds.
You're absolutely right, and I think we've got the funds, and we're still in FFP. No matter what people say, we're still well within it. We had Kieran Maguire on the show a few times now that's talked about what our capabilities are with FFP.
500 million a window, was that not what he said?
Yeah, very.
We could spend 500 million a window over the next three or 4 seasons, I think it was. He said when Richie was on, and we wouldn't even break anywhere near FPP.
There you go. So
FFP
for every window we don't spend that 500 million, surely that just bounces back.
But then you also need to add on, Pete, the commercial revenue that we've now started to bring in with the last few deals, and then it's taken at that percentage of your commercial versus your outgoings. STC, well done, that's their great advert. So all of those things all add up that we didn't have 6 months ago. Yeah. So that financial fair play situation is fluid. It's rapidly changing month on month with the deals that, you know, Darren Eales and guys within the club are now starting to bring in. So that FFP dimension changes every time we do something different. So
I agree. We've still got a number of questions. We may not get through them all, but some of them link up together. So I'm just going to throw them out there. Some are really quick fire. I've got to say, JM,
go for it.
Troydini, really? Come on, man. You are definitely having a laugh.
Is that Nathan again?
We are never having Troydini. That is for sure. But there is a couple of questions that I do want to get through in our conversation before we wrap up with some of the quick fire questions at the end. JM also says, please sign James Maddison, please. Okay. Now, you boys know my answer to this. So it is what it is. But Leon asked the question, if we sign Maddison, where does he actually fit in since we don't currently play with the number 10? So his prominent position is a number 10, but he's played in various other positions. Right, I'll come to you, Chris, and then Daz, and then Mark. Right, in your opinions, if we sign Maddison, where do you see him playing? Where do you see him fulfilling his potential in this current Newcastle team?
It's a great question. I mean, we've spoken about number 8. We know that he's recently played as a right winger for Leicester, and then I suppose he kind of, if you imagine on the pitch, the number 8's here and the winger, if you like, the right winger's there. I'd imagine him kind of sitting in the middle, and maybe you'd see Kieran Trippier overlapping him. And it's a great question from Leon, because I think his best position is number 10. But then does that mean we shake things up? Do we go to 4-2-3-1? Who knows? Eddie Howe seems to really like the 4-3-3, and people will argue that he probably won't change from that. I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, I'd say the number 8, but then I mean, you drop Bruno into the number 6. Would people be happy with that? Does it mean that Joe Linton misses out and you've got Bruno and James Maddison? Maybe you're playing Joe Linton deeper. We need squad depth. There's no doubt about it. But then equally, you know, if a big player is missing out, so say, God forbid, you know, Bruno missed out or Joe Linton missed out, does it work? I don't know. But I would be delighted if we got James Maddison. You could also argue as well, like Miggy's undroppable, so it's a big headache for Eddie Howe. Big headache. But hey, do we want him? Of course we do.
Definitely. Daz, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is where I kind of struggle as well with Maddison, because I think they were going all out for him, and to play him on the right wing and in that spot where Miggy is excelling now. But I don't know. I know, Pete, you have your heart and soul set on Maddison joining in January, and I think it's as well as loving Maddison. It's just to get one up on your Leicester mates as well. But I don't know. I think right wing was right wing is where he's probably thinking. But now does he need to? He doesn't need to strengthen there at the moment. So will he go back in for Maddison? I know everyone keeps talking Maddison, but I'm not so sure.
Okay, Mark. Maddison, where do you think we'll sign him? And if so, where do you think he'll fit in?
I still think, like you, Pete, I think we will go for him. I think you don't get all that smoke without a little bit of fire somewhere along the line. And I think you've seen in the World Cup, he's kind of played up a little bit to that as well with the Newcastle lads. We did his interview and they were talking about him, and There's a little bit on it. Here's a.
It's all right. Chris is just trying to. He's a dude about.
That's the stage. Just throwing it out there. If it's a big
Daz is
from Maddison tattoo.
Hey, Daz is perfect now. Look at
I
him.
imagine that man. You can get the two of them. You can get the two of them on one bed. It'd be like cheek to cheek. Oh man, that'd be some live show. That'd be some live show, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Look, I've got
God!
I've got arms full of tats. So me getting the Maddison tat.
Squeeze him in.
What you could do is you could just have Maddison with a 1, and then just your butthole could be the 0 for the 10.
Okay, I'm not going to do that. But look, if we sign Maddison, if we sign Maddison in January, I would consider getting one if Daz got his.
I tell you what we should do: make a pack. If Maddison happens, Daz should get his, and the rest of us will get a Maddison tattoo. There you go.
We all get a Maddison one.
Yes, can I get in as well, including you?
I think
this is how it happens. It will get clipped now and put together, and it'll be played back in about 6 months' time.
Exactly. Yeah, but Pete won't be like you. He won't unite, mate. He's a proper man. he won't try and back out of it, Dazzler. Do you know what I mean? Going, I have to ask my football.
These guests are getting very cheeky.
Oh yeah, that's me sub done. I think if we get Maddison, I think Eddie Howe changes formation. There you go.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he will adapt, not necessarily change everything, but I think when you bring a player in like that can not only score your goals, can link up that midfield strike, and it goes back to where does he play Isaac and different bits and pieces. I think you have to, when you bring a player like that in of that caliber, like we've done with Bruno, you have to adapt slightly to be able to fit him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the club go for him. I think they will. Will we get him in January? Not sure. Could be summer. I think we will go after him though, because I think he is the kind of player that Howe likes. I think the club like him. I think they want him. But I think if they do, I think we change structure slightly to accommodate his play.
Yeah, you don't put 2 bids in for a player if you're not interested in it.
Absolutely.
And we've proven with players that we've gone all out for, like your Botmans, for example, and your Brunos, that if a deal's not done the first time, we go back.
Yeah, and I think the thing you need to remember as well is that formation is it's like you said earlier, Pete. The thing with the formation, Eddie is currently doing the best with what he's got at this current time. So he's getting the maximum out of the players that he's got in a formation that works in this current squad with players with situations that are that first 11. You bring a Maddison in, you bring an Ndika in, you bring whatever else in. It opens up another door. So I think this much like the takeover piece and how we move forward is just phase 1. It's not the final game. Far from it, I would think.
Yeah, no, I agree. 110%. Look, we've got a few questions to fizz through. We're coming towards the end. I just want to answer this one very, very quickly for David Hackett. Yes, I'll be there at the game at Boxing Day. Best pub. There is only one away pub, and me and Chris were there in the last game.
Yeah.
And you know what? The name's gone out of my head. I forgot it. But it's right next to the Odeon, right next to the ground. I'll put it on a tweet when it comes to me. But there's only one away pub for the Leicester game, which is quite rubbish, to be fair. And they're not really very welcoming to opposition fans in some of the pubs in and around the stadium. Not like us. We're not that they're not very welcoming, but they're just like, they're all very like, it's all very cliquey in terms of the pubs that they
parochial is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, that as well. But yeah, there's one pub that's purely just for Newcastle fans, and it's a really, really good pub. Literally a 5-minute walk from the ground. You can see the ground from where it is. So yeah, when it comes to my mind, David, I'll let you know.
And also, if you are looking for parking needs, tap Pedro, because he is very good with the A to Z, and he will tell you where to park in Leicester as well.
Yeah, to be fair, that's the one thing they're really good at, Leicester, around the ground. They've got some decent parking and at decent prices as well. So most people will be driving Boxing Day because of the trains and all the other stuff. But we'll get into that nearer the time. Just to confirm what Richie said, without increase in commercial revenue, Kieran said we could spend 800 million over the next 3 seasons and not risk FFP. So that's what Kieran said on the show. Richie's just confirmed that. So thank you for that, Richie. Absolutely spot on.
Richie is Kieran's assistant, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, talk about Wilson's understudy. There's Kieran's.
Definitely. Right. A few other questions. There's some World Cup questions regarding England. We'll probably just save those ones for another night because we are back with Newcastle United content. So let's stick to the Newcastle United content. Question for you boys. Do you think NUFC have their eye on anyone at this World Cup? But in addition to that, who have you kept your eye on and who have you been intrigued about at the World Cup, having watched all the games? Who stood out for you in particular? Chris, we'll start with you.
Someone else mentioned him in the chat. The one that stuck out for me was Leao of Portugal. He's only been coming on for cameo appearances, but he looks really, really good. I think he is playing at AC Milan at the minute, so he's not a hidden gem or anything like that. But I thought he looked really good. Obviously, Cody Gakpo for the Netherlands has stuck out like a sore thumb. I think he's looked great. And there was also a name I put in the chat earlier, who really stood out. And Pete, I know we've had a separate conversation over them, and that's Christian Pulisic for the USA. Yeah. I think, great player. And when the team is solely focused around him, you can see that, he is some player. And I know this isn't the be all and end all, but if you're bringing in, and I think Jimmy Moore, who's in the chat, Jimmy's spoken about Pulisic and said that, he's massive in America. And if you sign somebody like him, imagine what your fan base is going to be like in terms of America. He's one of the biggest players in America. Maybe the owners are looking at it from that perspective as well. Obviously, Ramos coming on for Portugal the other day in replacement of Ronaldo. So he started his first World Cup game at 21 and scored a hat-trick. So obviously he was already on our radar. They were the big ones for me, I'd say. But of all of them, I'd say Leao. He's the one that really stood out.
Mark?
Yeah, I think for me, though, obviously your man probably stole most of the headlines, but your man Ramos for Portugal, the lad we were interested in for a while. Who else is really? There's a few. I've kind of enjoyed a couple of the Moroccan lads as well. There's a I forget the name of him. There's the left back from Morocco. I thought played really well. Played really well the other night. Pulisic, I thought, has had a really good World Cup as well. I thought he would be. I quite would like to see him come to us as well. Yeah. But yeah, probably. I'd say probably for me, if I could, I think your man. I think the Dutch lad will go to Man U or Liverpool or somebody. No point talking about Bellingham. Bellingham's had an amazing tournament, but he probably goes to Liverpool, unfortunately. Sure, Jurgen will be on again with his donkey teeth, complaining about not being able to spend money when he gets them. But I would say probably your man, probably the Ramos, the Benfica lad. Me and you were talking about, Pete. I think he's class. Love to see him.
I'm just gonna butt in again. Kamal's just pointed out one that I've completely forgot about. Yeah, kudos.
Good player.
Superb.
Yeah, is it Ghana? Ghana he plays for?
Yeah,
I think it's Ghana.
Yeah, I think it was Ghana, wasn't it? Yeah, he looks excellent, very powerful and driving with the ball and looked really good.
Kudos to Kamal.
Definitely. Does that?
Yeah, look, it's just kind of dipping in and out of games, but like everyone, I'm sure. But I never really took an awful lot of notice of him before, but he's at Spurs, so we're never going to get him. But Bentancur for Uruguay, I like him when he's playing. And one of I've been kind of teaching my little boy who's 5 all about football. But one thing he noticed, we're watching Croatia, and off comes Luka Modric, and on comes Lovren Meyer, and he couldn't understand because he thought it was the same player coming on again, because we talked about before, they look alike and they're playing. If he's that good to be replacing Modric, he has to be one for the future. I think we're not seeing an awful lot of him yet, but he has to be one for the future. So, and I'll link it back to what Lee originally said about him. It gave us the tip off about him. So I'm expecting big things from him in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, there's been a lot of good players. I'm not going to give you mine. So yeah, tough. Tom Dixon.
Fair enough.
Tom Dixon said Newcastle's next 3 competitive fixtures after the World Cup: Bournemouth in the Carabao Cup, Leicester Boxing Day, Leeds United New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I think it is. Results wise, what are you expecting from these 3 games? So are we expecting, next round of the cup and 6 points, or are we expecting maybe there to be a little blip in the road? Daz, will come back to you first. What are your thoughts in those next 3 games? Are they all winnable? Can we win them all? Will we?
I think we beat Bournemouth right in the cup. Leicester, where it's away from home.
It's a tough one.
I want to say we're going to beat Leicester as well, and yeah, we're going to beat. Yeah, it is a tough one, and it all depends on our players that are going to be at the World Cup going to be able to feature there. And like if Bruno's in the final, let's say England are going home after this France game anyway, by the way. But so they might be fit and ready to go. But
yeah. Kicked him out.
Two can play that game. Less of the England tone.
But yeah. And the Leeds one, I'm going to say, yeah, we're going to beat Leeds, and also as part of beating them, we're going to hand over Chris Wood as well. Hopefully, he's back and fit by that time for that transfer window. Bye, Chris Wood.
Oh, interesting. Mark, what do you think those next 3 games? We're winning all of them?
I think it's 3 wins, mate. I think we're just. Do you know what it is? I was actually talking to a Leeds fan in work, and he was talking about how well Newcastle had done, but the bubble had burst. And I said, do you know what? I would agree if it was any other manager than Eddie Howe, because there is absolutely no way he takes his foot off the gas, and he has not got these lads primed to kick back off again.
No.
I still think we've got good form players. I think the squad is together. I think we're only going in one direction. So for me, I think it's next round the cup, 6 points, and then I think we take another 3 off Arsenal as well. So there you go.
Yeah, Richard just put in the chat about Jesus missing. He'll be missing the Arsenal game,
and we beat Sheffield as well.
Yeah,
5 wins in 5 games. I'm going for.
That would be delicious. Chris, are you in the same mindset?
So the Bournemouth game, I think we'll win.
Aye, so
we're even.
Oh.
Aye. Wait till you hear that. She'll love that.
Dude.
I've got that song on my phone.
Play it back for it later on.
I will. She'll love that. Yeah, I think we beat Bournemouth. I think the Leicester game will be really difficult. I think Leeds, it's an evening game. I just noticed. So yeah, fully confident on Leeds. The one I've got my eye on is that Arsenal game. If we can go the Emirates and not get beat, wow. That'll be some marker that we're setting down, as if to say we're here now and we're not going anywhere. If we can get a result at the Emirates, whether it be a draw or maybe a win, if Martin said we can win all 5, that'd be fantastic. I think
their bubble burst before ours, Chris.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Definitely. Yeah, honestly, I'd be made up with that. Absolutely made up if we could get something against Arsenal. And as Richie said in the chat, Jesus being out, massive miss for them. That.
Yeah. All the Arsenal fans are saying, like Dan Potts is saying from 12th man, this will be a big test for them because he is so key to how they play. So if we can get through these 3 games and be winning these games going into that 3rd of January, we're in a great position. Brilliant position.
Richie's just put another great comment on there, Pete, and this is a very quick fire one. Do we agree with that? If we get something at the Emirates, do PIF spend?
Yeah, but who's to say we don't spend before that?
Yeah, exactly. I think
who's
they do.
To say that we don't in the
you
next
think on the first, they just go bang?
Yeah,
Like
I'll be honest with you. This is not. Look, we know this is not a Mike Ashley, spending anymore, where we wait till the last day of the window and then buy a player. It would not surprise me if serious links to players are not starting to happen in the next couple of weeks. This is what we've been building.
I wouldn't also be surprised, Pete, if there's not a deal already done.
Yeah, like Trippier, for example.
Yep.
Remember, Trippier came
ready
in
to go
really early on. It would not surprise me at all. It's going to be a really interesting one. But I think the Leicester game's a tough game. I think there's a lot of variables that might need to come into play in order for us to really benefit in that game because, Maddison not playing being one of them. Is he fit? Is he available to play? Is he ready to go for 90 minutes? We don't really know. Then again, you said about the Newcastle players, I'll be back. Lots of variables with regards to that. So that's an interesting one. I fully expect us to beat Leeds. I fully expect us to beat Bournemouth. But if we can get that Leicester win and we can get into that game, I think that's a massive one. That could completely just flip both teams' seasons on their head in very, very different ways. So, I don't, we can win them, but let's see. Look, questions finished from me. So, Daz, I'll hand it back to you. But you know what? I have to say, boys, really enjoyed that tonight. Really, really good chat.
Massively. Great to be back.
As well.
Yeah.
Top stuff.
Great to be back, is right. Great to have you back with us as our mystery guest as well. And let's give a quick shout out to the sponsors. And I'm going to say really, really quick as well because my delay here is going to make a mess of it. So shout out to chaiburns.com and Simon, who as always is in the chat, and the range that is available from Simon, as it will eventually change on screen as I'm clicking it here. Also available is the loaded range, and mine should be arriving pretty soon, probably the start of next week. But there's t-shirts, hats. The t-shirt was modeled by Ray. The hat is modeled by Mick, so, Chris, you'll have to get some of one of these hats for the winter. But it's also available are the hoodies, and as I mentioned, the hats. Yeah, so get on there and check it all out on chaiburns.com. Also, a shout out to Pins and Prints and the range that are available on Pins and Prints. So check the latest on the sites as it slowly changes for me on screen. A shout out as well to Marty at Machine House. And Machine House, get your Christmas t-shirts and your hoodies. Why not? Go check out what's the latest with Machine House and what they have available. Also, shout out to Dean and the Geordie Rise and the range of t-shirts that are available there. And last but not least is Russ and the Radiator Shed. And let me get rid of the banner at the bottom. You can see it. And then we can put Martin, Chris, and Summer's gone in jail. So check out the Radiator Shed and all that's available there. All your radiator needs. Busy this time of year is Russ. We're hoping to get him on with us soon because we have a big prize to give away from Russ and the Radiator Shed that we haven't said anything about, and we want to try and get it in the show that Russ is on, and we can introduce. He can tell us more about the brand and the companies and the giveaway. And we're going to probably run a member draw for that one. So that's what we're pushing. Become a member. Right, and also shout out to the Install Works, all linked into the Radiator Shed and Russ's companies. That's really it for the sponsors. Pete is off screen because I was going to ask. We're probably going to come back. Well, the England game is on Saturday, isn't it? I think we'll probably be back on on Monday maybe. Well, we don't have anything set in stone yet, but we are looking. We're thinking about getting this guy. If here he is, If this guy in the middle there, if he's his homework done, and he's bag packed and lunch ready to go the next day, we might get him on, little Jordan there, to talk about the trip to Saudi. So we're trying to target that for sometime early next week. He'll be back for sure. Yeah, and of course we're going to be on. We just have to find a slot that suits really on with Paul and the crew from the Toon Review as well. Just need to find that time slot that works. So we will with the World Cup games. It's hard to find a slot, and of course we're going to try and watch the games as well, like yourself. So that's why we're kind of trying to do our shows on the nights there's no games on, like tonight. That it was it from the sponsors, and I don't think is there anything else, lads, we're missing, or anything else you want to tell anyone about? Yes.
Just great to be back on the mat.
Thanks, lads. Yeah, great to be back. Thoroughly enjoyed it tonight. As I said to you earlier in the week as well, I really enjoyed the chat the other night. Just the five of us sitting shooting the breeze and looking at where we're going to go. So yeah, it's good to be back. So yeah, look forward to getting back on the screen once in a while and chatting and doing what we do. And like I say, you know, these lads have worked excessively hard over the while I've been dusting it. But it will be an absolutely amazing, fabulous Christmas gift to all five of us if that extra 100 or so would hit those buttons and subscribe and get us to 5K for Christmas or New Year. That will be absolutely huge. So yeah, help us out and get us to that point. We deserve it. These lads deserve it. They've been putting in the work.
Oh, we all deserve it. We've all put in the work since the channel's been up and running.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be a nice little treat for us to celebrate. You know what? The funny thing is that we'll be celebrating it with you in the chat and those that are watching the show. Because this is why we do it for you guys.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly.
That is it. So thanks everyone who was in the chat and came with the questions. And we probably didn't get all the comments on screen, but we tried our best. Those loads of them. But great to be back. Great to have Martin back. And we will talk to you pretty soon. Good night, everyone.
Adios.
Eddie.
How you like?